From the race plate 72 US 30 Dragster, the Coca-Cola bottle of Chicago and presents the Mr. Chevrolet USA Super Bike Car Showdown. From Pennsylvania, it's three-time national champion Jungle Jim Lieberman. From Dallas, Texas, Market and Watson's Drag-On Vega. From Alabama, the bold one, Bobby Wood. From New Jersey, Bruce Weston's Fantastic USA 1. Here it comes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right?
I don't know. I like the other intro better too.
Yeah, but that one's nostalgic. That's why you had to do that one to kind of bring back the nostalgia.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What's everybody think here? I mean, like, put it in the comments. What do you think we should do? Keep the other 1970s retro, I guess, weird kind of eclectic intro, or should we go with this one?
The Poncherello and was it the Poncherello one? The Chips version.
Well, I'll pull it up here so everybody can see. You can compare and see what you like here. Let's see here. All right, where is that other weird one? I don't know where that sucker's at yet.
It's been a few weeks, huh?
Yeah, I should probably lay off the. I had too many. I had too many pieces of pizza tonight. I'm feeling bloated.
Oh man.
Oh, here it is. Here we go.
All right.
You ready? Okay. So you like that one better?
I like that one better. The other one is just nostalgic. It's kind of like it reminds me of when we first started this. Yeah. That one is definitely better. It's got a better groove. It's got a better swing. It's got feel. It's awesome, man.
Yeah. Well,
it's our funny side.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. They're different. Either one is a little different. One of them is nachos with a little bit of too much jalapeno, and then the other one is like, I don't know, cotton candy ice cream with blotter on it,
Okay. Oh yeah, I was gonna say blotter, right.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, so we already got a lot of people like, all right, so getting some welcome backs. Welcome back, Dallas. Nice to see you back in the home studios. Yeah, well, you didn't see me anywhere else. So let's see.
As you go through there, he took his vacation. Now it's my turn.
Yeah. Shane's going to be popping in and out for the next few months.
I don't know.
I guess. I don't know.
We'll see how it goes.
Let's see here. Dust Devil Garage. Welcome back, Dallas. And hi, Shane. Welcome back, Dallas. All right. Well, hey, guys. Welcome back. This is the first one we've done on the AHRA channel in a while. A long while, matter of fact. So, I guess the changes that are happening is that I'm back. Oh, that's obvious. And then Shane is going to be taking some time off to spend with his little ones so he can watch them grow up.
Play some drums.
And play some drums and take his kids to car shows on Wednesday nights for Cars and Coffee Wednesday night in Memphis. So, he's going to be doing that. So he'll be in and out. I guess you're going to be here next week, but then the 13th, not here. So I'll try to find somebody to fill in on the 13th. And what I'm going to do is shake the shrubs and see if I can get somebody on here that has some technical savviness from somewhere else within the community. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, Lake Speed Jr., isn't that what his name is?
Yeah. Well, I can always tell you, man, Mr. Wilburn's always been, he's good, man. So,
Oh, John Wilburn's a good dude to throw in there. Well, let's see. I'm sorry. I coughed all over everybody's microphone in their face. And I've been under the weather for like the past 4 days now. So stupid YouTube didn't alert me to this at all. Danny Boyd, I had to search for this channel and you were already live. Don't sweat it, dude. We probably have left this one sitting idle. This channel sitting idle since I'm thinking probably May or June of last year. That's when everything got sideways. Right? Is that about right?
I'm actually, as you're talking, I'm going to go to my channel and see how long I was doing the lives for, because that will tell me. It was 8 months ago is when I started.
Okay. Well, so for 8 months, my life has been in turmoil, and it's still in turmoil, but I'm just like, F it, who cares anymore? And now we're just getting back to what things were somewhat before everything went skidderish.
May 31st, 23 is when I started.
Yeah. All right.
Wow.
Well, I remember you called me and said, "Hey, man, do you care if I do this?" I said, "No, go ahead. I don't want to do it." And it had nothing to do with the audience. It had everything to do with what was going on with me. So, let's see. Yeah, learning to not gaff is hard. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't, it is what it is. So you just roll with it. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
You know,
just
what do you do?
What can you do at this point? Shrug your shoulders and keep on moving. Sure,
Yeah.
no problem.
All right. I got a 63 Buick to build, right? So, yeah, I'm just going to get back to that. So, Colleen's telling me or asking me how I'm feeling. I'm feeling pretty good. I've had some kind of respiratory thing for like the past, I don't know, week or so, I guess. But it's really been getting to me the last 4 days. So I had to really up the vitamin C to like 10,000 milligrams. And let's see, last night I got 9.5 hours of sleep. Is that right? And then the day before that, I slept through everything, all my alarms in the morning, all of it. I got like 11.5 hours of sleep. So whatever it is just killing me slowly. Wow. And hopefully it does it before my wife does. So let's get back to real deal. Yeah, my ex-wife. Okay. Okay, so 38 POS Racing. Good to see you back, Dallas. I hope things have more normalcy for you. Yeah, actually, I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know what I'm going to be doing with the AHRA. There hasn't been really any of those questions yet, but I don't know when I'm going to get back to it. Right now, everybody's good until May on memberships. I just pretty much extended everybody's membership for a year, so you better be taking advantage of your all of your stuff from Competition Products. So that's been extended for a long time. Let's see. Okay. Wholesale parts and rust. So Dallas, when do we need to come down for a Buick workathon? Actually, I could probably work that out here pretty soon. Yeah, I'm pretty much I'm in the man pad of the century. Any young guy that's single would kill for a pad like I got right now. And right now I'm just like, oh, this thing is too much maintenance. This sucks. Right?
I would say that mine is now that I have the man cave above the man cave. So I have the studio.
You have like literally like a man ant farm going on over there where you have rooms above rooms, right?
Yeah. So like check it out. Like, look at that. That is above my main garage. So there's my drum set. Oh yeah. Dude, it doesn't get any better than that. And that right there, that is a 138-inch projection TV right there. And so we're going to get a laser projector in there. And instead of putting a couch in there that just takes up the whole spot, we're going to get like bean bags. So that way we can move them out of the way.
Heck yeah, dude. There's nothing wrong with a good old bean bag.
Oh, I'm telling you, man, you'd be just like back in the day. You have your projection, surround sound. And that room's soundproof.
Get it on, down in front.
Right. Well, no, it's up high. So it's got a mount up high. And then, so then you could turn it up as loud as you want. You don't have to worry about anyone. Because I play full full-fledged hardcore drums up there, and I'm hitting them. And my wife can sit outside. She goes, do you hear it? She goes, no, I can hear the little bass drum here and there, but that's about it. So,
well, Danny Boyd's saying he'd kill for a garage. So I tell you what, I'm about to have. I got 2 garages and they're both filled with crap right now. So you can't win. Right now, I'm still my whole life I've been striving to get out of the driveway, and here I am working on stuff in the driveway. But Dizzy Izzy saying, good to see you back, Dallas. Evening, Shane and all. It's good to see you too, Dizzy.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, and see Danny Boyd saying all the comforts of a well-equipped shop. That was one of the biggest things that I've always wanted was like, I really wanted a shop where you could walk in there and you had like almost every little stinking tool that you could possibly imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do anything in there. The only thing I'm missing is like a press. Let's see what else I'm missing. I need a TIG welder.
Yeah. Well, you really don't need a TIG welder. Really
No.
don't. You can get a MIG with a spool gun. Technically,
I have a MIG that does a spool gun.
Yeah, that's all you need. Just get some aluminum, start practicing.
You know what? I called Chris Cox, which is Fab Race Mod Repeat in the chat here, and I threw this idea at him. Okay, and I'm kind of wondering if I can do this. I don't know if I can.
Okay.
I'm thinking about I'm going to try to oxyacetylene that aluminum intake manifold back together with aluminum rod that you use for TIG.
You can do it.
Yeah.
I did it in high school. Yeah, we didn't have that kind of stuff. Yeah. Now you got to be careful with the fire. So you want a really tiny torch. Don't get a big one.
Right.
Get
Yeah.
a small
Just get a
torch.
little small rosebud on there.
Yeah, and then you basically heat up the rod as it's there, and then just barely tap it in there. And it's just a balancing act like this, because it will puddle up and it dissipates heat really fast. Yeah, exactly. So, but you got to carry that heat towards, and you want to go into the flame, so that way you're heating it up as you go to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Clint's saying I need a parts washer. Yeah, I do need one of those. But I have my makeshift parts washer, and it kills it. I mean, it does a pretty good job. Let's see. Mopar, Mustangs, and minivans. How bad can running diesel, oil, and a gas engine be? Interwebs say not to in a gas engine because of the cats. Help. Okay.
Won't make any difference. I do it all the time.
Yeah. So here's a deal. In 2006, all the zincs were pulled out of motor oil, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like gasoline motor oil.
Yeah.
That's where it split into gasoline motor oil and diesel motor oil, was about 2006. They were always labeled as such, but in theory, it's literally just motor oil. Zinc is something that will destroy a catalytic converter. And to keep manufacturers from having to replace your catalytic converter, they lobbied the oil companies to pull the zinc out. The zinc was used for flat tapping camshafts, and what it did was essentially it minimized wear in flat tapping camshaft, essentially on the lobe and the face of the lifter. Today, the only difference really is diesel oil still has zinc in it, but it doesn't have as much zinc as they used to. Not even close.
And,
right?
and a lot of the diesels have catalytic converters on them, so they still have the zinc of 1200 ppm in them, and they still have a cat, so it's not going to do any difference. And diesels are some of the most polluting things as far as getting by the rings and blow by and all this stuff. It's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, well, that's what rolling coal is. That's unburnt fuel.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And real quick, I didn't see him in here, but I wanted to personally thank, since he's on here, John Wilburn for all those 8 months of going live and dedicating a Wednesday to keep this spot alive. So I wanted to thank John. Thank you. I appreciate it, John. Thank you very much. It's a big commitment, I can tell you that. I'm burnt out.
It is tough. It just gets to be to a point where I love doing the lives, because the lives, I'd like to think at one point or another you help somebody else figure out a problem or point them in the right direction when they're lost, right? But it doesn't always happen that way, and after a while it gets to be more like worse than a job, because you don't get paid. And so you're just you get run down. So Clint Street Machine saying I need a belt sander.
I got a circular one. I got one of those from Harbor Freight because I don't want to go and buy a bitchin' one. I just got a round one, and it was inexpensive, and it works bitchin'.
Yeah, 38 POS Racing says the main thing my shop is missing is concrete. So
that's a big thing. Yeah.
yeah. I did it in a one-car garage when I was a teenager. My dad had a one-car garage just set out back. Let's see, Tall Garage is saying I got a cheap yes welder TIG for aluminum, 100% worth it. I'm right there with you, buddy, but I'm not going to drop the money for some Chinese in welder. I'm not. I'm going to spend the money on a good welder and have something that's going to be around for a while. Let's see here.
John Wilburn saying, by the way, I'll be live with Andy Wood this Friday. Topic: it's impossible to please everyone. Isn't that the truth? Holy crap. There'll always be, it's the second from the bottom, at least on my page, 715.
I'm just catching up now.
Oh, okay.
All right. So we'll be live with Andy Wood this Friday. Topic: it's impossible to please everyone. It is.
100%.
I tell you what, running the AHRA just pretty much gave me a new perspective on no matter how hard you work, people are always willing to tell you how much of a piece of shit you are. They are. This is the most horrible thing I've ever seen. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Okay, well, great.
Do something
thanks.
different. Yeah. You do it and do something.
Pull your
different.
wallet out and make it happen, buddy.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I can always say that I guaranteed. I literally put my money where my mouth was. So let's see this. And also John has a live, it's going to be an introduction to the No Name Nationals on the 29th of March.
Ooh.
Which is...
I did share that, yes. I remember that.
Yeah, Tall Garage shot that to me on Facebook, and I posted it just about everywhere I could. And speaking of Andy from Unity Motorsports Garage, there he is.
Yeah. What's going on, Andy?
He's coming on down here with us.
He's slumming it.
The basement dwellers, yeah.
He's slumming it.
Let's see. Fab Race Mind Repeat says, impossible to please everyone. Yep, every race pro needs to learn this. You gotta have some thick skin, I'm telling you, man. It's probably one of the biggest I don't know. I wouldn't say disappointing. You have really high highs and really low lows is the easiest way to put it. You get in between in the middle there, and it's like, oh, I'm just happy to be not at a low or not coming out of a high. So let's see.
And I'm posting a link right here to the that's for John Wilburn's.
Oh, Jonathan Couch, he sent a $10 super chat here. Have you ever heard of turning oversized valves into valve relief cutters?
Yeah.
Yes. Using 360-degree valves to cut reliefs into 318 poly pistons for our LA 318 budget build. We had 50,000 intake and 80,000 exhaust clearance. Oh yeah, you need some clearance on that, dude.
Yeah,
you need a minimum of 100,000 on the exhaust side.
Yeah, and if you just take the valve and then we made them just with the little slots. You just take the old valve and you put the slots in it, and then you just spin it up and ram it into it. It doesn't take much. What I normally do is after I make it, I take the valve and I drop it down on there and I measure it with a dial indicator, one of those magnetic bases, and then just spin it up and then bring the magnetic base back over, and I'll tell you how far you went down. And it's really simple. You can even just use a caliper too if you want to go from that to the end. It will tell you how much you did. So yeah, it's really bitching.
I wasn't the cheap guy on this one. I actually called a company. The only time I've ever had to do this was on Jack the Giant Killer 300 Buick, where it had 15,000 exhaust side clearance. So I had to cut 100,000 into the piston, pretty much 85,000. I called up a company in Chicago that specializes in engine tools, and they have these, and they tell you ask them, hey, you got these, and they tell you how long you want them. what's the valve stem size, and then how big's the valves. And that's it. And they send you the valves, and they were pricey for one shot. But now I've got the tools, and I charged the price of the tools to the guy I built the motor for. So
Yeah. Now, Jonathan, let me ask you a question. Is this a solid roller cam or is this a hydraulic roller cam? Because here's the thing is that if you're racing this, those numbers are fine. If this is something you're driving on the street where it's going to heat soak and to do other things, it's going to be a hydraulic roller, I would get a little farther away. But typically, if it's a race engine, now not on my car, but I've done it for other people's engines, I'll get as close as 40 to 50 thousandths on the intake, and I'm about 60 to 70 on the exhaust, and I've had it as close to 50. In fact, there was one of my mentors that I had, Joe Sherman. He said, and I've said this before, if you can't see the imprint of the valve in the carbon, then you're giving up compression and you're giving up camshaft. So if you can't see the imprint of the valve in the carbon on both the intake and the exhaust valve on the piston, he says that you're losing power. So that's just a heads up. But that's a race engine. Don't do that for the street.
Yeah, and the guys from Rear Morrison used to say the same thing, except for if you can't see the where the piston's just touching the chamber, you're leaving some on the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, usually too, and because I asked Joe about that too, and he said that in the quench, he says that when it quenches down, if it's really close, especially at rock, at higher PMs, it won't even build carbon there because it's so tight and it's exploding so fast that there's nowhere for it to burn in there. It never even produces carbon in that area because it's so tight.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I can't get any air and fuel in that spot.
No.
It gets pushed out as the piston comes up. Okay. Yep. Let's see here. Let's scroll down. Michael Schmidt. Dallas, are you going full bore with AHR as a job, or what's preventing that? Well, right now I'm still in the midst of divorce, in the throes of divorce. So
the death throes of divorce.
Yes, the death throes of divorce. End of it. And so I can't do anything, and it's already the end of February, right? Generally, I start working on this stuff in November. It'd be a bit late to try to do something right now for this season. I don't know what I'm going to do for next year. I've had a lot of good advice over this past, well, in April it'll be a year. So I've had a lot of good advice. And I think if we're going to do something, we're going to change something up, we got to make it work is the thing, right? Driving all over the country, putting on bracket races on the weekends is not making it work. I end up eating up most of the money that the association makes with just fuel alone. And it didn't help none that we're screwing with gas prices and $5 a gallon and all this and that was going on at the same time. But I'm going to change some things up. And what we're probably going to do is do some events. I'd like to have like maybe 4 or 5 events a year. I think would be nice. And they'd all be like something similar to like No Name Nationals, right? I've been sitting on one I've wanted to do for, how long have I wanted to do this now? 5 years, 6 years? Okay, and I'll let you in on it. There's only a few people that know. Professor P knows, John Wilburn knows. I've been wanting to do one that I called the Sibling Rivalry. It's Buick versus Olds versus Pontiac versus Cadillac.
Mm-hmm.
Drag race, swap meet, car show.
Sounds
Thought
great.
would be really bitching. It's the redheaded stepchildren of General Motors that got kicked to the curb. Chevrolet. Yeah, the Chevrolets had their Super Chevy since the 1970s, and then here's everybody else following suit with like some, just 1/1000th of what Super Chevy looks like. So I figure you put them all together, maybe you might have something that has like 2 1/1000ths of what Super Chevy looks like. But, let's see. Okay. Jonathan Couchy says, we're cutting the pistons 10 degrees down the hole, which is about 30 thousandths down. The poly pistons are 5 thousandths down the hole. Okay, yeah. So 10 degrees down the
Yeah,
hole.
what he's doing is it so like on overlap. So when you're 10 degrees before
Oh,
TDC and 10 degrees after, usually is what I think is what he's talking
I'll
about.
tell you exactly how to do this. All right, this is all I did. I brought it up on top dead center, and then you drop your valve in there. You get your valve in your head and bolt the head on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's running right through the guide. Bottom out the valve when it's up on top dead center. And then what you do is you just measure up. You know, if you need to take off 30 thousandths, measure up 30 thousandths. Put a 30 thousandths feeler gauge on there. Put your lock in place. Tighten it down. That's where you got a runner.
Mm.
You just run it down 30 thousandths. Just make sure. The way I ended up doing it was I taped up when I brought the piston up to top dead center. I taped it all off on the whole deck. I didn't want all that aluminum crap going everywhere because I had a motor together, and I had to do this thing on all 8 of them for intake and exhaust.
I just put clay around the where the rings are at. I just put clay there.
Well, you're smart too. Okay, shut
Put
up.
clay.
No, I got it. Probably would work great. I
Oh, it
just put the
does.
tape on there. So what I did was I sucked all the aluminum filings right out the spark plug hole, right?
Yeah.
And as you're grinding it, just suck it right out the spark plug hole. It works great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I spent a lot of time taping all up too. But all right, let's see.
Skip
where
ahead
we're
a
at
few
now.
because we got
Yeah, I need to catch up.
Yeah, 722. Jonathan Couchy is asking a question. Shane, it's a
Okay.
hydraulic cam, a flat tappet cam. It's actually 262. It's a 260 2-barrel cam, 252, 252 at 50 for both, running ported 360 T-by intake and a BBD carb on top. I will modify the BBD. Okay, yeah. So you definitely would like to have on the intake. You know, I would like to have at least 80 and 100 on a hydraulic cam. And you know, I've told you guys 100 times how I run hydraulic cams, and I would do it in this one, run it 20 thousandths off the bottom. And that's how I would do it. That would give it the best stability valve train. That's a pretty big camshaft, 252 duration for a 360. So that thing's going to RPM. So I definitely would run it off the bottom. That's just how I would do it.
I'm trying to figure out what a 262 barrel cam is. Is this something I don't know? Is this stock car lingo?
I 260 2-barrel can't. I don't know. Oh, I think he meant to say it's actually a 260. Maybe he meant to say 360 2-barrel cam.
Huh.
Maybe. I don't know. Oh, it's 210.
210 at 50 thousandths. Okay, it's a really small cam.
It's a super small cam.
Yeah, this thing's going to make tons and gobs of torque.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you what, man. You know what? Jonathan Couchy, since we're rolling here live, you know what? How did you come up with your piston to valve clearance? Can you tell me how you did that? Because I know how I do it, and I'm just trying to figure out how you got it. Did you have the cam installed when you ran it? Well, I guess that's a dumb question. You'd have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, too, you know, on this, it's because it's a poly head. So there are different angles. That's probably why he's getting so close.
Oh, he's running a poly head on this thing?
Mm-hmm. I think that's what I read earlier. It's weird not having the big screen because now I'm on the chat now is on a small side. So, but I believe he said it was a poly head.
I think he did say that. I thought it was a poly block with a wedge head.
He says he's cutting reliefs into a 318 poly pistons for our LA 318 budget build. I don't know. Maybe it's just a poly pistons, and then it's an LA head. I don't know. Ooh, go down 2, 3. Maxwell Dick Dastardly saying that Mr. John Wilburn's got a
This
video.
one?
Yeah, he's got a cross ram.
Cross tunnel ram video to John. I think will surprise you.
So now we have 2 new sayings since you've been gone. We have the Tunnel Ram Mafia, which you all know, and then we have the Cross Ram Cartel. Okay,
the Cross Ram Cartel.
Yeah. So there's 2 sides here. So yeah, right there. There you go. The Cross Ram Cartel is here, folks. So yeah. So that's the whole thing. So so John,
we're all part of the runner length family.
That's right. That's correct. Here's the thing. I'm a Mopar guy, so I always love the cross rams. But if I'm going to make power, it's going to be a tunnel ram. But that's just
The cross rams make the same kind of power, but they don't have the plenum volume. That's the thing that kills them. Because they share the plenum on the tunnel rams.
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you. Now that I've been building tunnel rams for myself, plenum volume really doesn't make that much of a difference when you have a tunnel ram. When you have
How dare you? Bob Glidden's rolling over in his grave right now.
I'm telling you, it's the truth. It's the truth. We've done so much testing on it, and it really made insignificant power compared to like if you just make a change in the runner taper. So like if say you have a 20% change in port volume from the top to the bottom, and say you have a 2-degree taper. Okay, that's going to make all the difference in the world because it's a Bernoulli effect. It's speeding up the air. It's high velocity. But as long as you have enough volume for the cubic inch of the engine, as far as the plenum volume, you could increase it 10%. You can put stacks underneath it. It's not going to change it. As long as the carburetor is right above the ports, it's going to work just fine. Now, once again, like I said before, if you're into pro stock and you're trying to get every little point something of horsepower, yes, then it makes a difference. But for us, people who will never even see 2 or 3 horsepower difference, it's not worth all the fuss on the plenum volume. And I promise you, in fact, Andy at Unity Motorsports did this too. He said that he even admitted this. He said that he did his dyno, and then they put spacers underneath the carburetors, and it did make a hill of beans of difference. All the dyno testing that I've seen at the Edelbrock, because we keep all of our information, didn't make much of a difference at all. Literally. I mean, all you're doing is you'll move it 0.1 horsepower here and 0.1 foot-pounds of torque here, or you're moving it back and forth, whatever it is. But it's insignificant.
I'll tell you what I've been kicking around. You know how the engines that have like the Siamese intake ports?
Yes.
Okay. You know the biggest problem with them, same thing like on a small block Dodge. They get the push rod pinch. Kills those Siamese intake ports, right? I started having this brainstorm of an idea the other day. And I'm like, why are we Siamese in the intake ports? Why don't we have it 2 separate, like, can't you just cut the divider out?
Oh, make a
it'll
like
pull
one.
It'll pull, yeah, it'll be one big port, but it'll be pulling at 2 different times.
Well, I think what happened then is you're going to have too much weight of volume.
Too much velocity, or too low a velocity?
Yeah, exactly. It's too big of a port then. So, and
especially if I could combine them.
What about 5 and 7 though? That's a problem. Is if let's just say standard firing order 1-8-4-3-6-5-7-2, 5 and 7 would literally be firing
one
on
right
the same port, one right after the next. So 1-8-6-5-7. So 5 would be pulling. The velocity would be high. Then 7 would open. And then it would actually you would be technically.
You probably have overlap on both of them.
Yeah. So you would to run that, you would definitely need to change the camshaft. Now, we did a lot of cams back in the day where we had the out 4, like say 1, 2, 7, and 8 would have different duration of 50 and lobe separation angles, because the shorter runners inside would run a little differently because they have shorter runners, so they would want to run RPMs. The farther ones would want to make more torque, so you would just change the lobe separation angle and the duration to equalize it. That's a lot of people still do that in circle track racing. It's a big thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if if you could take the 2 ports, put them together, and then epoxy it and make it one round port, but it's like oval shaped.
It's too big.
Think so?
Yeah, because you want to have the Venturi effect for each one, because you want to have that flow stop, and then as a flow is opening and closing, it's going to have weight. It's going to be cramming it in. If you have 2 ports going in, and as far as how it's staggered too, if you start just mapping out, like let's just say big block Chevrolet, 1, 8, 4, 3, 6, 5, 6 and 5, 7, 2. So yeah, basically it would be 1, 8. So one side,
they're opposite of each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Then 4, 3, 6, 5.
And it becomes a problem when it's 5 and 7.
5 and 7. Yeah.
But that's where you do a 4-7 swap. Right?
But you do a 4-7 swap.
3, 6, 5, 4, 2.
but then you're still going to have the other ones are going to be firing too. Because there's the thing about a cross plane crank is you're always going to have two. Even a 4723 swap, you're going to have 2 and 3 going to be firing next to each other.
But 2 and 3 don't share the same port.
I'm not telling you 2 and 3. 1 8 6 5 7 2 2 3. There, I have to write it down.
1 8 7 3 6 5 4 2. So 1 8 7. It'd be 8 7.
1.
No, 8 and 7 are on opposite side. 1 8 7 3 6 5 4 2. Yeah, they'd be separated. The whole entire thing will be separated. And then I wonder if 1 2 and 1. No, they're all separated at that point. Do 4-7 swap. So Mohawk saying he got a stupid commercial. I wonder if something's changed on me on YouTube.
It's not. It's 1 and 3.
1 8 4 3 1 8 7 3 6 5 4 2.
1 8 4 3. It's a 4 3 7 2.
1 8 7 3 6 5
4 7 2 3 swap. So it'd be 1 8 7 2 6 5 4 3. So 1 and 3.
No, it's just a 4-7 swap, man.
Oh, well, you can do a 4-7 swap too, but it was 1 8
1 8 7 3 6 5 4 2.
2. Those also would have, because all of them have there's always 2 cylinders firing next to each other.
Next to each other is fine. Shared ports is not fine.
Yeah,
right?
That's the whole thing. They're always going to have you're always going to have 2 that are going to be share a port.
You can't. Even if you do this in a circle, right? So 1 and 8 are on opposite sides of the motor.
Yep.
Right?
Engine.
Okay, engine. 8 and 7.
1 8 4 3.
No, 1 8 7 3 6 5 4 2.
Well, you're doing a 4-7 swap.
Correct.
Right?
1 8 7 3 6 5 4 2 is a 4-7 swap.
1 8 4. 1 8 4. Oh yeah.
1 8 7 3.
1 8 7 3 6 5 4 2. Okay, so 1 8 7 3 6 5 4 2. Where is it?
Michael Schmidt, to answer your questions, I haven't even got that far, man. I literally am just coming up with some ideas for events. Right?
Yeah, give me a second on this one because I wrote it so small I can't even read it. But there is all of them. You'll always have 2 cylinders firing next to each other. You'll always have it.
No, that's not possible.
1 8 7
on this 1 8 7 3 3 and 6 6 and 5 5 and 4. These are all, they alternate different sides of the motor. So even if the 2 and the 1, because it goes back around and starts all over again, right? It's
7,
still not
3,
the same.
7 3. Then it goes
6 5 4 2.
6 5 4. Oh, 2 and 4. No, because they're 2 4 2 4. They're on the same port.
Oh yeah, you're right. You are right on that. Yep.
Every single. I'm telling you, the only way to get away from that is a flat plane crank.
Mm-hmm. And then hence the purpose of the flat plane.
Yep.
So no matter what, you're always going to be sharing one port.
Yeah, exactly. It just where do you want it at? That's the whole thing, and that's why the what I call the Windsor firing order, everybody else calls the LS firing order. You're making those 2 fire at the front of the engine, right, instead of at the back of the engine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole. That's the whole thing. So that way you can carry the harmonics back.
Let's see.
We're way
John Wilburn's. Yeah, I'm way behind. John Wilburn saying, don't forget the single carb syndicate. Okay, so Jonathan Couch is saying he used clay to measure the clearance. It is poly pistons and a wedge head LA318 because the poly pistons are 5 thousandths down the hole. All right. What?
Yeah, don't use clay. Use the valve drop method. You'll always go wrong with the clay.
Really? That's
always.
Totally how I do it.
Yeah, don't, because you don't know. Wherever you cut it and you measure, What if the valve is bigger than the pocket? You'll never know, because if you just cut it right in the center, which everyone does, you'll only know right in the center. So if you do the valve drop method, you put a setup spring in there. I degree the camshaft. Then what I do is I do a valve drop map. So we already know that 10 to 11 degrees on before TDC on the exhaust is going to be the tightest, and on the intake after TDC is about 10, 11 degrees. That's usually the tightest, depending. That's your average camshaft. So I'll do, say, like if I just pick 11, 2 degrees before that, 2 degrees before that, 2 degrees, so 6 degrees before that. So I'll do 17 degrees, then I'll do 15, then I'll do 13, I'll do 11, and that way I can kind of see how close it comes and go away. And the reason why I do that is so if I decide to change the camshaft, like say the cam's supposed to be installed on 106 ICL, and I decide, hey, I want to back this thing up because it's coming a little too soon, and I back it up to 108, I can watch the map and I can see how the valves are corresponding to the piston, and that way I have a map. But if you do a valve drop method, you will absolutely know if it's going to hit or not. Guaranteed.
Well, I just do it with I use Play-Doh, right?
Well,
and then I freeze it.
That's a quick check.
I freeze it with the cans of butane that you buy to clean keyboards.
Yeah, it works.
And I freeze the crap out of it, and then I cut it, and then I throw it in the freezer, and I let the whole thing set up really good, and then I measure it.
Yeah. And Andy's saying right there, it's Windsor. Shane is correct. Yes, because basically an LS is a stolen Windsor. Let's just put it that way.
No, I disagree.
You disagree?
Yeah, the LS the LS is a stage 2 V6 Buick. Have you ever looked at any of these small blocks next to a Ford small block?
But dude, there's so much that a Windsor, that an LS has, that was a Windsor. You're probably on a Buick too, but as far as V8 to V8, firing order, there's so much. It's scary, and so yeah, how close it is.
Stage 2 V6 Buick is all it is.
And then they took it back when they made the Godzilla. They basically made a very large LS.
So Tall Garage asking, cons with guided rods. I got a crank with a stupid wide journal. Seems to be the best option. Mm-hmm. I don't know what guided rods even are.
Piston-guided rods. It's really big in NASCAR. So what you do is instead of having the rods being guided by the crankshaft, so you have a gap and you have whatever, like you set your between the two rods, the piston itself, there's no play at the top, so the piston holds the rod square, so that way it doesn't slide back and forth. And then at the end you'll have, say, a quarter inch, or say even bigger than that. On some of them they're running really tiny rods, so they'll run a quarter inch between that and a quarter inch between the end of the rod. So the piston is guiding it, the rod keeps it square, but the piston is keeping the rod from moving around on the journal. The only thing bad about
they got like a quarter inch clearance between the rods.
Oh, more than that.
Was I following that right? Though, I mean, like, wouldn't that thing be hemorrhaging oil motor all out of it?
No, it doesn't matter. It won't be. That's the thing too, is that, if you had, say, 15 or 20 thousandths, just do the math. If you had 15 or 20 thousandths between the area on there, it doesn't matter if it's 15, 20, 30. It won't make any difference, because at that point, most rods are only getting the oil of half of a moon of a crankshaft rotation anyways. Even if you had a full groove, it still has where the oil is hitting on the rod, that is on the thrust side of the crank of the journal. So it's not on the open end. So that is on where all the force is at. So when it's pushing down on the piston, that oil happens to be at the very top of that, right? And then as it's firing, so it's always on.
I just figured it'd be hemorrhaging out the side of the rod, because usually I was always told that the tolerances on the sides is what kind of dictates how much oil the rod itself gets. Because if it's tight, then it forces the oil to stay there. If it's loose, it just runs out. Has no retaining pressure whatsoever.
You want it to get out, because if the rod is the very end of the oil travel, so it's accumulated so much heat by that point, and by the time it gets to the rod, you want it to get out as fast as possible. So that's why I always open them up as much as I can. The only thing about piston guided rods is that you are going to sling a lot more oil everywhere. Typically, it's better for if you're going to be running, say, a dry sump system. I would definitely get some breathers on him, because you're going to have a lot of oil in the air. Other than that, it's really the biggest issue is going to be just cost, buying custom rods and whatnot for that. Other than that, it's really not a big deal. Custom pistons and rods is really what you're going to need to buy.
So he's saying the cons with guided rods.
Yeah.
What is the con?
Like pros and cons. So
yeah, what is the con though? What is the con?
Cost of the rods and the cost of the piston.
Just because it's their custom rods.
Custom, yeah. So that's the con of it. Also too, that you would have to you can get away with a wet sump, but it would definitely be a dry sump. That would be a con. Just a few different things too. Tall Garage saying the rods go down to the bottom. Rods got to be custom. Yeah.
I'm just catching up right here. How did the DIY valve guides work out? I haven't ran the motor yet. It's like everything else is behind by like 2 years now.
Yeah. At the very Tall Garage, so we stay on subject, this Tall Garage asking the rods got to be custom. Yes. And the reason being is because you got to have a way for the oil to get to the top of the pin. So usually when you have that kind of system, you have to have some sort of way for the oil to splash up to the rod. Some of them have a drilled hole internally, so there's a pressure going to it, going to the small end. There's got to be some sort of oil going up there, because usually when you're doing a piston-guided rod, you're going to be doing RPM, so you got to have some way to cool it.
That's where your piston cooling oil mechanisms come into work, like
exactly
in LS.
Yes, exactly. So that's where squirters come into play. There's a few different things, but typically people who that have some sort of way to get oil up there, because it's not a big open area, where before, like if you have a regular, you'll see the pin, the oil coming off the crank will get up in there. But if it's a really tight area, there's a lot of areas that in there that have to get oil to them. Some people run oil passageways. This is kind of popular on, like, say, on motorcycles, where they'll run a passage up through the rod, so that way it pressurizes the pin area.
Well, the old school ones used to do it. Like the early Buick rods used to have a notch cut in the cap that would squirt oil up.
Yeah, Slant 6 has got a hole in it too for that.
And it does the same thing. It's either squirt the cam or squirt the wrist pin, or both.
It squirts the cam, yeah. And Fab Race Mod Repeat says, Shane, the windage would tear the engine up without a dry sump. Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. It's it really comes down to
so
RPM.
It would spew oil out like mad then.
Well, it's not that it's spewing, it's just how much mist, because remember, you have to get oil to the top of the piston somehow.
Right.
That's the big thing. And you got to get up there. So yes, you got to have it. You got to have it somewhere up there. But it's not that it's spewing out, it's just that you got to get oil.
Okay, so all right. There's a couple of things he's asking about here. Mm-hmm. All right. So he's saying you got to have custom rods, and then he's saying, isn't the rod fitted to the piston? In these cases, I'm with piston guided, the guided rods. What it sounds like is, no, the wrist pin is not fitted to the piston. It's a full floater. It would have to be, because it's meant to move around on that journal, right?
On a regular one, yes, but on a piston guided, it doesn't move at all. Literally, it's fixed. It's just a hinge. It's a hinge at that point. It's it's
not a full floating rod or full floating wrist pin any longer.
It's a full floating wrist pin, but it can't move in either direction. So imagine, right now when you put it on there and you can take a piston, you can slide it on the wrist pin, and then you can slide it this way. So there's full degree. You cannot slide it back and forth because the piston holds it. It just only goes forward and backwards, but it is a full floating piston, a pin.
But it doesn't move on the wrist pin.
It moves on both sides, but it can't slide because the piston is stopping it from sliding.
So you need a custom piston and custom rod.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You have to have both.
Okay.
And it has to have oil ability to it. Now, he does say that, so oil squirters will work. It will work. For how long? Couldn't tell you, because there's not enough room there for the oil to get to. to squirt it up there. Because remember, that's under a lot of pressure now, because that is there's force now on that to keep that rod straight. It's not what you think now. Before, it's just moving around, but when you're doing a piston guided rod, that is the force point now. Now you have two forces there. You're holding it, and you're going to have lateral forces also trying to apply on that. So squirters will get oil up there. Whether it's going to work for how long, couldn't tell you. You definitely need to have some sort of forced oil up there.
All right. Well, piston squirters it is what it sounds like. Wrist pin squirters, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, usually it goes up through the rod.
You know, I never understood why you couldn't build a channel from, let's say, the oil ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then the oil ring, as it's going up the piston, the whole thing it does is literally just, it works like a squeegee, and it just freaking, all the oil funnels into that thing. I don't see why you can't build a groove to lube the wrist pin. I don't see why that can't be done.
I think because of the speed of the piston. I just think it's just, because my pistons I have right now have got grooves in the back of them, and they're ported. They're ported pistons.
Gas ported?
Gas ported on top. And then they have a channel on the back for oil to get out, because it's it's got really thin rings on it and stuff. So
that's the downside of the thin rings, is they cannot control oil very well.
No. So they got to be opened up on the back.
And it wasn't even until probably the mid 90s when you saw them go from 5/64 rings to 1.5 millimeter. I think is what they went to, right? Ford was the first ones I seen do it. They went to 1.5 millimeter and 1.5 millimeter, and then 3 millimeter oil ring. But then like the LS went down to like 1 millimeter, and then they used that Napier style ring.
Yeah.
For the second ring. And I'll tell you what, you want to know how awesome Napiers are, go get yourself some kind of late model small block Ford or small block LS motor, take the rings out, and just see if you can put the ring back on the piston without cutting your hand to the bone.
No.
Right? Yeah, you can't. It's impossible.
Yeah. So Fad Race Model Repeat was basically saying that Dallas, it completely fills the block with foamy mist. That's exactly what happens. It's 10 times worse than a regular engine with foamy mist. So any type of
I see it here.
Yeah, right there. So basically it's like a super foamy mist. And when you do piston guided rods, there's a lot of there's considerations for camshaft too that you have to take into account. There's I mean, this is a deep rabbit hole. It's a really NASCAR shit is really what it's for.
I kind of am not up on the new NASCAR stuff. I was just getting to the DLC coated wrist pins when NASCAR was already going away from that.
Well, this is all from the 90s. Piston guided rods. That was from the 90s.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And it was actually it was late 90s, early 2000s when they started running the really small bearings. When they started running the Honda Journal rod, and then the Quad 4s. I think the Quad 4s came out first. The Quad 4 bearings, like the olds, and then they went to the Honda 188s. That's when they really, and then they started cutting them down even narrower and smaller and thinner, and then they just started guiding it with the piston. And then basically they were making the piston literally, and then you can also with the piston guided rod, you can make the wrist pin. It doesn't have to go from end to end on the piston. Literally, it only needs to be this big.
Oh, that's the stuff I got. That was the stuff that ended up in my T-Bird, was those pistons.
Yeah, so the basically the pin is only about yay big.
Yeah, I got a 2.5 inch wide wrist pin, which is like literally like that's too wide right there, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you clip it on, but it still floats around, but it doesn't really do much. So it's really about weight, and so that way you can cut down on weight, and that way you can really get the speed on them. Go down 1, 2, 3, 750.
Race mod repeat.
Yep.
Okay.
Shane, while we're on, kind of. Do you think valve spring oilers are effective as they once were with modern springs? Yes, absolutely. In fact, I think they're just as effective. We on the Spintrons, even the modern springs still produce heat. It doesn't matter much. It's less heat, but it's still heat. And you'll smoke. I've seen those things literally burn oil. At say 7,500 RPM, just the heat of the spring cycling will cook oil. We have, 10-quart oil, 2 filters, and then we have an oil cooler. And this is not even a spinning engine. It's literally a mandrel, a camshaft, and we're just cycling springs. And we're only cycling one side of the engine, and it will still burn up oil like that. I always,
Well, it's actually kind of common sense if you think about it, because
Mhm.
it's energy. When you compress that spring,
Yes.
that's energy retained, right? The spring is like an energy battery, right? This is really what you're looking at.
Yeah.
But it just retains mechanical energy and it turns it into heat,
Mhm.
right? But
It is.
yeah,
So in fact, even on my Gen 3 Hemi, I made a jig. So for the exhaust rocker, there right now, those only get oil from drip between the rocker and the shaft. That's how it gets the oil. The intake one actually has a squirter, so it squirts the trunnion there, the tip, and then as it goes through the cycle, it hits the spring. Now the exhaust kind of gets an oil bath, and it gets a drip coming down through the rocker arm and the shaft. So I drilled a hole in there just like on the intake, and so that way it sprays up and down to cool that. So because this is for my road race engine, because those are going to be definitely hot.
yeah, you're going to be running it at 6,000 RPM plus for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
Oh, so Tom Brown's saying, question, dynos always run a manual flywheel. How does one calculate power loss on same engine running a torque converter?
Well, okay, it's
Is
just
this
percentage. So the manual flywheel basically is just a direct drive, and a lot of converters nowadays are lockup converters. So really, then it's a manual at that point. And a torque converter, the whole idea of it is a torque converter. So what it does is it literally converts torque, and you'll get what is called a K value. So you'll get more out of it than you put into it for a very short period of time. So like a 1.2 is a decent K value. So if you're putting in 100 foot-pounds of torque, you're going to get out 120 for a short period of time. And then once it starts spinning, then you're going to get percentage of loss. You can calculate that by RPM and mile an hour at the end of the track, and that'll be your efficiency. So you're
well,
going to basically lose efficiency in a converter on the top end. But with lockup converters, you just lock it up out of, say, second gear, and then you're direct drive. So it's the best of both worlds.
just like running a stick. The
Yes.
thing is that with a flywheel, like he's saying, is direct driven, so it's mechanically coupled.
Yep.
Right? On a torque converter, it's not mechanically coupled, it's fluid coupled.
Yes.
Right? It's hydraulically coupling essentially the torque or the crankshaft of the engine to the input shaft of the transmission.
Going through a stator. That's the key. You're changing direction of fluid. And then, once you start doing the right hand rule of torque and vectoring, that's where you get the multiplication, because you're taking fluid, shooting it down. It's making a 90-degree turn, and that's where you get the multiplication on it.
All right. Clayton's Toolbox says, just picked up a 67 Olds ultra high compression super rocket 425. We'll be doing a performance build on it. What can you tell me about these engines? Well, there's something I'm going to tell you that you may or may not know. But that 425, there was only 2 engines in Oldsmobile inventory that came with a steel crank, and one of them is your 425, right? The other one was the 330 ultra high compression, and the 330 ultra high compression used 11-to-1 compression, probably about like that 425 did. That would likely be something that would be a serious piece if you really, I mean, the heads on it are probably the best factory head you could get, which is most likely a C head, and then the border stroke on it is the big block Olds wasn't bad, it wasn't terrible. I do like the small block better, to be honest with you, because they all had the same stroke, 3.398, I think, or something like that, and then the bore on was pretty big. The 350 Olds was 4.057 standard bore, I think, something like that. So it's pretty big for factory bore.
Yeah.
Especially for a small block. And then I think though the 425, somewhere in those years, the Oldsmobile V8 had some weird valve train angle thing going on, where certain engines had this degree of valve lifter angle, and then later ones went to conventional. I don't know. It was something weird like that. It's early Oldsmobile V8s that do that. So see what's there, what you got about it. Because I don't know much about it. I just know that 425 has got a steel crank, and that's the one everybody's looking for. So if you were to take that 425 crank and put it in a 455, I don't know if it's still 455 cubic inches, but it'd have a steel crank, whatever you put it in. So
Yeah.
And some Jonathan Couch is saying, don't people put Olds 425 cranks in 455s to make a 488 stroker? I don't know if the 425 has more stroke than the 455. I'm not sure. I'm not too up on the Oldsmobiles. I've had two of them. Exactly two Oldsmobile V8s. And one of them I liked, which was the 307.
I've never had an old.
Really?
Yeah, I never did.
The 307 Oldsmobile from like the 80s, that came in every G body. I had a 87 Olds Cutlass with a 307 Oldsmobile.
Is that the one you drove cross country? Like
It
you
is.
got it, and that's that the one? Yeah.
Yep. I loved it. That thing got great mileage.
Yeah. Oh, Danny Boyd saying Olds had 2 or 3 strokes, and they tend to change bore. Okay, sounds like Chrysler.
Yeah. Well, it may be the ticket to grab a 455 block and throw that 425 crank in it, and maybe you have something gonzo big.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. But then it'd be a steel gonzo big crank motor. So get out the nitrous bottles.
Isn't that what Jonathan Couch is saying up here? Did we say that? Don't people pull out the Olds 425 cranks into 455s to make a 488 stroker?
I don't know if that's how they do it. You know what? It's totally worth a Google.
Yeah.
Oh, Google.
Yeah. You see, I don't speak much Olds or Ford. I don't speak much of that. Pontiac, I speak a lot of Pontiac. My brother had a Pontiac. Fire chicken.
Let's find out here. Okay. The bore on the 425 was a 4.126 inch bore and a 3.975 stroke. Okay.
I agree, John. John saying, if I ever post that I bought an Oldsmobile, go ahead and block that account. It's definitely not me.
My grandpa used to like these. He really liked the Oldsmobiles. Okay. The Olds 455 is a stroker crank, and it has the same bore as the 425. So just keep your 425 block and keep the 425 crank in it, because now you get 425 cubes of steel crank motor. So spray the bejesus out of it.
Okay, so the same bore, just different stroke then, right?
Yes, it has a different stroke.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, that their bore is actually a 4.125 or 4.126. That's technically like a 400 small block Chevrolet bore. And if you look at the 403 Olds was the one that's like had that gargantuan bore, and it's a small block Oldsmobile.
Yeah. It's funny. Anything at 400, like even Chrysler 400, gargantuan bore, short stroke.
We're going to find out what it was. The only downside to the 403 Oldsmobile is that the blocks were windowed blocks. Yeah, the bore on the 400 small block is 4.351. It fits right in there with the 400 Chrysler and the 400 Ford, right?
What's that? I'm sorry.
It fits right in there with the 400 Mopar and the 400 Ford.
The journals are different. The main journals are on the B engines are smaller. So you either have to turn it down. There's a few little tricks that you got to do. So you got to turn it down.
It's the same way with this Oldsmobile 400 or 403.
Yeah.
It's the stroke on it's 3.385. Okay. So real dinky stroke. Smaller than a Chevrolet small block. And then the bore on it's 4.351. But like I said, they windowed the mains. So the mains are like if you've ever seen have you ever seen the big block Buick before? Taken apart? Yeah. You know how you can look down through the bolt holes for the main caps and you can see there's nothing under them?
Yeah.
The Oldsmobile's like that right above where the crank sits.
Wow.
Like the block is windowed through. You can look through the block underneath the main caps or
Wow.
underneath the mains in the
Jonathan
block.
Couchy is saying that Eagle makes a kit to stroke to 4.5 inches. So you can put a crank in there that's 4.5 inches crank.
Dude, how big would that motor be? Oh my God. A 403 Olds with a 4.5-inch stroke?
That's
Well, see,
awesome.
generally when they get a 4-inch, if it was a 4-inch bore motor, that thing would be 450 cubes.
Yeah, it's good sized.
Yeah. So that means it'd probably be almost upward of 500 cubic inch small block Oldsmobile.
Yeah, that's like I said. I had a friend who really into Oldsmobiles, just loves them. I just never really knew much about them, you know.
You want to know? I know
Mr.
something that.
Wilburn, it was a twofer. That was a twofer for Dallas. You're
What's
right.
that? What you talking about?
It's
Inside
a
joke?
well, it's an Oak Island thing. You wouldn't understand. It's not inside. Basically, if you ever watch Oak Island, they do these things where a rock that's on the edge of the cliff, it hasn't done this, and he'll go on and on and on. He'll just keep doing these, like, question, and then he'll do an explanation. And a twofer is where he'll do two of those before he does an explanation. A threefer is he'll do three of them before he does an explanation. The most
Oh,
I've
so I
ever
did
seen is a
something.
and what's that?
I did something that I didn't explain,
Yeah,
or
okay.
I threw a whole bunch of information out there and then explained it.
So it was a twofer. And
Oh,
John caught it.
gotcha.
I did too. But it's just funny because it's just stupid. It's basically
Right.
Oak
Yeah.
Island crap.
So Fab Race Mod Repeat is 400 forward is 4-inch bore by 4-inch stroke. And I'll give you a big, like a piece of information here I learned from Shane's mentor, Joe Sherman. If you have an engine that's either a 4-inch bore or a 4-inch stroke, okay? So if you have a 4-inch bore, whatever the stroke is how big the engine is. Okay, does that make sense? If you
Oh
have an
yeah.
engine with a 4-inch stroke, whatever the bore is how big the engine is. So if it's 3.85-inch bore and you get a 4-inch stroke, it's going to be 385 cubes.
Oh
Right? You didn't know that?
no,
Or,
because let's see, it's a 4030. Oh, it's
right.
whatever the bore is.
So no, if it's whichever is 4-inch. Because on a
Okay.
V8 engine, if anything's 4-inch, if the bore is 4-inch, whatever the stroke is how big the engine is.
Okay. I got you. Okay.
Yeah. So like a 289, that's where you would think, oh, a 289 Ford, it's got a 4-inch bore. That means it's got a 2.89-inch stroke. Is that close?
Yeah, I don't know that one. I was going to do the math.
What's that?
Yeah,
Anybody
just
know what the 289 stroke is? It's got to be shorter than 3-inch stroke.
yeah. Danny Boyd saying 289, 302, 321 Fords are 3-inch bore.
Another 4-inch bore.
Oh, and okay,
Yeah.
he says
Yeah.
4-inch bore.
Right. So that means the Fords in that family would be, you have a 3-inch stroke, you got a 2.89-inch stroke, and you got a 3.51-inch stroke. Is that close?
Well, Fab Buff Del Campo saying 2.87 stroke. So yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. Okay.
That was the rule of thumb, is that if you have
I
something
didn't
that's
know that.
4-inch that's known, if it's the stroke or the bore, whatever is the opposite of it is how big the engine is. So if
Well,
there's anything that's 4,
I
that's
beg to differ on that one, because if it's a 4-inch stroke and then you have a 4030 bore, that's a 408 and it's not a 4030.
right. Okay. Well, you're getting in the ballpark though. You see what I'm
Yes.
saying though,
Okay.
right?
Okay. I got you. Yeah.
I mean, you're 5 cubic inches off. And I was off by stroke by, it's 2.87-inch stroke
Okay.
instead of 2.89-inch stroke. But it's just, that's the rule of thumb.
Oh, okay. Okay. I
Right.
got you.
That's what Joe Sherman taught me, was that he said, yeah, whenever something's a 4-inch bore, you can automatically assume whatever the stroke is, if you know how big the cubes are. If you
He
want to know how
never
big
told
the
me that
cubes
one.
are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's in fact, indirect connection second right there, 808. Click on that. He actually posted it up right there. He must speak Ford.
Yeah.
If you click on that one, and he's saying that 289 equals 287, 302 is a 3-inch, and a 351 Windsor is a 3.5. So yeah, you nailed that.
It's just it's a rough guesstimate, you know.
No,
How
that's bitching. Yeah.
yeah, just like I do the cylinder head flow numbers. It flows 271 CFM. Oh, okay, that means it's going to make 540 horse. How do you know that? Well, I don't know for sure, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's a
It's
good
the
rule of
potential.
thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
the
what you should
potential.
shoot for. Let's
Yeah.
see.
Danny Boyd saying, I never had a big enough engine head to try the displacement formula. Right.
I just hated doing. You know how like the normal math goes. It's like bore squared times, I don't know, 3.14 something, and stroke is in there somewhere. And instead, it's easy just to go, all right, how big's the bore? 4-inch. All right. You know, almost every engine everybody uses is a 4-inch bore, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. John Wilburn at the bottom there says, well, the 360 Chrysler is a 4-inch bore and a 3.58 stroke. So yeah, it's a 360. Yeah. Wow.
yeah, it works great for the 4-inch bore V8. Yep, it does. And now when you start getting off of that, it's when things get a little bit gooned up, right?
Hey, one, I can never say this. What did a NASA 2B? 810.
Watzonda?
Is it Wazonda?
Watzonda.
810.
Welcome to Watzonda.
Yeah. 810. There's a question up there.
Oh, 810? Watzonda 2B asked something? Oh, I missed it.
Yep.
Hey, Dallas, Dr. P. I am Dr. P. I'm planning a high revving 170 for my 60 Valiant. That's cool. I'm all about that.
Yep.
What do you suggest to mitigate problems with oil pump cam gear interface?
Etc. Run the aluminum pump. If it's a high revving pump, you know the Slant 6 is way over pumped as it is. It's got too much oil pump than it needs. So any aftermarket oil pump is going to have a bigger rotor than you really need. Every single one of mine has got an aluminum pump on it and runs just fine. I would definitely drop the pressure then, because you really don't need it, because you're going to be over pumped on that. And the interface, etc. I would definitely set the I would when you make the camshaft, when you put the cam in there, I would align the gear and the oil pump. And then I would basically run lapping compound and polish them together. So that way you can see where the connection is and see how they are meshing. So that way you can adjust forward or backwards. So that way they're right in the center. You can also then to adjust the gear itself on the pump. I made a special tool just for that, so that way you can extend it or bring it back in, so that way it's dead center. That's what I would do.
Okay, so Andy's saying Unity Motorsports Garage is asking 227 CFM from a 318 casting with 178 valves max power. With those numbers, it's going to be 454 or 454 horsepower. That's the max you're going to be able to get out of it.
Well, that's on the average. Now, if you RPM the absolute living piss out of it, you can actually make a little more than that.
That's just saying that's the head flow. That's the horsepower potential of that cylinder head.
Yes.
You're going to get within the ballpark of that.
Exactly.
I would say it's probably reasonable to say you can make 10% more.
Yes, that's reasonable. I would agree with that. Yeah. So I would say within, say, 454. So horse, I would say just, yeah, man, you could probably make up just 10% more than that, would be just under 500 horse. So I'd say somewhere between 400 to 500 horse.
Yeah. Sports Garage, don't forget the tunnel ram effect, people. Mopar people, I need a TR5. What's a TR5?
That's a tunnel ram.
Oh.
It's an old type of tunnel ram.
That's the old Edelbrock, isn't it, then? It wouldn't be what is it, TRY1 is the Chevrolet?
I don't.
Ending.
Yeah. At 2-1 Slant Daily Garage at yahoo.com. If you send me your setup there, I'll tell you everything you need to know about. I just did a whole video on blueprinting an oil pump for those things. on my channel. So go and watch that, and that will basically tell you how to blueprint one of those oil pumps for those Slant 6s.
See, even Patrick beat me to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are starting to understand it's real simple. Like I do it as just layman's math, right?
Yeah,
And it's
right.
just like double it, and that's the power potential.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can trick it with camshaft duration at 50 and load separation angle. You can make a little bit more here and there, but really it's going to be right in that type of deal.
Right, and the big things that he's talking about is like, you're going to have a lot of gains when it comes to less parasitic drag is going to equal more horsepower without affecting that head flow number.
That's right.
Okay,
Exactly.
so,
Yeah, there's like all these little tricks, the blueprinting, the balancing, and you're only going to make X amount of torque, but how long can I carry that torque out longer and you RPM it? That's where you're going to make more horsepower per se, because it's just carrying the torque into a higher RPM. That's all you're doing.
I tell you what I've come across that. Okay, so Mr. Rodder's neighborhood, I have to make cheap chintzy videos to get back up to speed again, with low budget stuff, so that I can get moving forward. But I am going to try something I think that's going to be kind of interesting. I've been wanting to, if I can get myself a Grenade 300 Buick, I'm going to shave the oil pump on a belt sander and just take so much off each time until I can get, like, where does it start affecting you and how much power are you making by just shaving the oil pump down? Because there is a finite line that at idle, if you think about it, if you use your 10 horsepower per RPM, per 1,000 RPM rule of thumb, you at idle, the thing only needs 10 pounds of oil pressure, right? It actually needs 6 pounds of oil pressure, depending upon what your idle RPM is. Yeah. So there's also in the NHRA realm, somebody figured out a long time ago in stock eliminator that you actually could get away with 6 pounds of oil pressure per every 1,000 RPM. And I'm kind of wondering if you did that, but you had the large ports like we were talking about, would it decrease the amount of horsepower, or I guess parasitic loss in the engine enough for you to measurably see something?
Oh yeah.
I wonder
I'd say so.
I think it would.
Yeah. Well, just if you look at it, if you just look at the new modern Godzilla, that thing actually has a solenoid on it to control oil pressure, so they can keep the power higher. So they have a literally bypass valve in there, and so that way they can, as you're cruising down the road, doesn't need nearly as much oil pressure. So it just brings the pressure down. So that way you're cruising down the road, you step on the gas, pressure comes back up,
and all these little tricks add up, and you end up saving some fuel.
That's right, exactly.
Let's see. Colleen Tebow saying that, Shane, I asked about a custom oil pickup tube a few weeks ago. If I cut the tube and splice in a larger tube in the gap, will it cause issues with suction?
Yeah,
No, I do this kind of crap all the time. It's actually going to cause turbulence within that tube.
Yeah, you can taper it though. You could, if you taper it. So, but if you go from big to small, you're going to have basically a suction issue. Especially if it's bigger, then it goes to smaller, then it goes into that on the suction side because it's going to have weight.
Well, it won't have any suction issues per se, but it's going to have turbulence like mad, which in reality is going to equate to like foamy oil.
Well, if it has a hole in it, yes. But what I was just saying is that even if there was no leaks, but if you have a big tube, a larger tube that goes down to a smaller tube that goes to an oil pump that's up higher, so you're going from this level to this level, and it's big here, this is going to have a heavier weight than up in here. So once it gets to the smaller part, it's not going to have any issue. But getting from here to here, there's going to be a lot more weight there. So it's going to require more pressure to move that higher because there's more weight moving up. So I would try to keep the tube size close to, like, I don't remember the number, but it was like 10 or 15% larger than your output. So like, let's just say if you're half inch, let's just say 9/16 going into it, and so your discharge is half inch on 9/16 going into it. Anything bigger than that, and you're really just wasting pressure, or actually I shouldn't use the pressure, but horsepower or torque to lift it at that point.
I always go from the 7/16 tube stuff on the Buick because it has a 7/16 hole in the block.
Yes.
And then I take them out to 5/8, right?
Yeah.
And I end up having to make a lot of my own pickup stuff, especially for if I got to put it in something custom, like, didn't come with that kind of stuff, or anyway. And I've had to make a lot of those pickup tubes. And generally what I'll do is I don't go from smaller to larger per se. What I'll do is you go to this from the smaller size, you cut it, and you put yourself a sleeve, make a sleeve out of the larger, and then weld it on both ends, but butt that other piece up against it. So the transition of it is almost nothing.
That's right.
You don't never notice it. Yeah. And you won't have any, because what it is what he's talking about is like the velocity will decrease so much between that larger tube and your small tube that I think what he's saying is it will no longer retain suspension because it doesn't have any velocity.
Yeah,
right?
But now maybe I misunderstood it. I didn't know. It's like, is it 5/8 to 5/8 with a, let's just say half inch, and 5/8 one little section, or is it 5/8 to half inch to oil pump? See, that's what I was explaining. Is if you have large, even the pickup is large, and then it goes to a smaller to the pump. But if it's 5/8 or half inch,
she's saying it's just enough to cut to slip over the cut pipe.
Oh.
And then you can just do it like what I was saying, where it's two.
Yeah, that won't make any difference.
Put two ends up against each other and then just weld it around that collar.
Mm-hmm. That won't make any difference. I was explaining like a big tube to like a,
small one.
Yeah, going to a small one. But I do the same thing, Dallas. Mine's are like half inch, but it's 5/8 all the way from pickup to oil pump, so it doesn't get smaller going to.
Well, mine don't get smaller usually. What happens is I'll open everything up to 5/8.
Yeah.
And then it's 5/8, but it's got 1, 2, 3 90-degree turns before it actually gets to the pump.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's like 6 out of the pump. Like, who in the world, what kind of crazy dude invented this? Put down the crack pipe, step away from the drafting table.
Right. That's funny.
Okay.
So Andy, they're getting ready to run that 318 on the dynos. Well, I guess is what I'm picking up.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like they might have the cylinder heads done, and then they were talking about BBD carburetors. Jonathan Couchy, I was reading this. He was saying to Andy, I will say I went back and watched some of the videos from Charles Servio on testing different carbs on the flow bench, and his modified BBD outflows a Holley 500 CFM 2 barrel, which is pretty intense. And I've seen some of the GM 2GCs, the Rochester 2GCs, get really opened up like that, but I don't think I've ever seen a BBD.
Yeah, I've got a few BBDs, but my only problem with the BBDs is that flat spot. It's just hard to get rid of.
What if it's a drag car and you got 2 or 3 of these suckers on there?
Wouldn't make a
flat
difference.
Spots irrelevant. Unless it's a flat spot at wide open throttle.
It's not.
I'm kind of interested to see what this 318 is going to be able to do. Well, let's see. Dustbowl Garage. Is this one you were saying yes to?
Yes. Yeah, you can use it, but just turn it on. And then what I always tend to do is, if you haven't run it in a while, say in your staging lanes, turn the fuel pump on. This is because I used to run this I used to run a Holley blue pump to my deadhead nitrous to my 250 shot. So before I would go out and go street racing, I would turn the pump on, and then I would cycle that solenoid just to purge out the air, because you don't want to go lean and then go rich or then get fuel. So this way you get fuel from the regulator to the solenoid to the plate. So that it's basically from the regulator to the solenoid is where you want the air to get rid of. So what I'll do is I'll just turn the pump on, and then I'll just cycle the the solenoid before I turn the nitrous on. That way I'll purge it a few times with just fuel, and you'll hear the fuel hitting the engine because it'll stumble.
Don't bog.
But yeah, it's gonna bog. You'll definitely hear it. And then that just cycles out then I'm ready to go. And if you have a deadhead and you're in the staging lane, just do the same thing. Do that before you get up there, before you turn the nitrous on. So yeah, works.
Yeah, we used to clean them out. Like in the staging lanes, you put them up in neutral, and you would do that. Leave the nitrous off, and then set the system up to where you just whack the throttle on it a couple times, and it'll belch black smoke. But
yeah,
you know that it's fuel all the way up to the nozzle. So let's see. Colin Tebow is saying, have you been watching New Guy Garage and his JB Weld carb? No. I can safely say I don't watch a lot of YouTube anyway. Mm-hmm. I don't watch a lot of anything. No. But I definitely, during this divorce, have not been watching a lot of YouTube. And any YouTube, hardly at all.
I really don't have time between work and a few other things. I don't. Basically, I go to work, come home, and it's either Cub Scouts or, tutoring or, just recently playing music and then working on the cars on the weekend. That's basically my life. Tall Garage is saying, cheapest manual transmission I can spin backwards and not get mad about it.
Hey, I've lost my mouse here. I'm gonna have to plug it in and charge it up.
Oh,
and I'm gonna have to go get a cable. You're gonna have to tap dance and play music through your nose while I go get that.
That's all right. I can handle this. So now I can't click on anything and put it up here on the screen, but I can tell you. So on Dust Devil. So basically, what I did on my car, even on the Cookie Monster, I made a fuel line. Now it's a return system, but I put a little purge line in there. So even from the regulator up to the solenoid, I put a 20 thousandths hole. So when I turn the fuel pump on, it bleeds the air out because you just want to get rid of the air all the way to the solenoid. That's exactly what you want to do. Colleen, yes, no, once again, I haven't done anything like that. Tall Garage, it said the cheapest manual trans I can spin backwards and not get mad. Are you talking about breaking it or spin backwards as in physically turn it in the opposite direction? Is that what you're asking? I mean, I don't know. Thanks. You guys are really doing good stuff here. Well, I appreciate it. I hope we are. Jonathan Couch is saying, thinking of switching my shortened Power Wagon to an auto as well. Be easier to control with my prosthetic leg and the big tires and factory lift. Yeah, I would definitely go to an automatic then. In fact, I think my Ram Charger was my first automatic truck that I had. And I loved it. I thought it was awesome. It's one of those things you kind of get in there, turn it on, drive. It's awesome. Ken, it would need to be a straight cut gear transmission. Okay, so it is reverse rotation. Yes, he is 100% correct. It would definitely need to be straight cut gear, and you definitely need to probably have it ringed and faced. Probably. It couldn't have any. Maybe it could have synchros. I don't know because on the synchros, I think they're helixed for the oil. I don't know. I would just have it ringed and faced. If you did that, then it wouldn't matter. If it was going what direction it was going, forward or backwards, it would still be able to shift. You would just need to sort of bump it so that way it could clean out.
I'm just wondering which one. Like, I'm thinking like SM465 would be a simple one.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the one that they use. Came in like 3.5 ton and 3/4 ton Chevy trucks.
Mm-hmm. Tall Garage ringed and faced is where they cut off all the synchros, and then if you Google ringed and faced, you'll know what I'm talking about. But what they do is they have these dogs and they look like little like bow ties, and then that way, and one's bigger opening, one's a smaller one. So when you pull the gear, it literally goes in and it clips in, and they're helix like this, so the load keeps it on there. So they're this way on one side, and they're also that way on the other side. And typically they like to be under load, but if you're kind of floating the gear, sometimes they'll pop out, but it either wants to be on load or deacceleration, and it'll lock into place. And you're kind of a Ford guy. I would probably see if a Ford top loader would do it. I believe it would, because That's like that's the most famous one to have ringed and faced right now. If you just got a Ford top loader, I'm trying to think in my head right now if there's everything on that. If you ring and face that, and they're relatively cheap too, I believe so.
All right. Come on, mouse. Hey, there we go.
Oh, you got a mouse back?
Oh, I got it temporarily back. I'm going to have to put it on the charger once I catch up. Okay.
Colleen's asking, Jonathan, you ever watched Bad Attitude C10? No, I don't watch anything. I'm with Alice on this one. I literally don't watch much.
Yeah, I'm not a TV person really. I mean, there's certain things like right now I'm stuck on this TV show that my friend told me about. It's pretty old. It's called Hell on Wheels, I think is what it's called. Hell on Wheels. I've been watching that. But other than that, I don't watch much TV. I usually find things to do. I always have enough stuff to do. So, man, we're an hour and 30 minutes in already.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of surprised. It's gone by pretty quick. That's where I was thinking, see, okay, 38 POS Racing is saying you need to think about that thrust control with helical cut gears.
Yeah.
That's where I was saying you use the SM465 or is it 465, 435? Whichever came in like the Chevrolet 70s trucks. Used to be a ton of them. They have granny low and all kinds of stuff, but I think the majority of them were straight cut gears.
Yeah.
And that's what you want if you're going to turn something in reverse.
Yeah. Straight cut gears and ringed and faced. It's got to be that. You have to. Colleen saying, I try to keep up with the No Name National Group, and that's it. I try. I really do try to just even do that.
You know, I'm not going to lie. The first year, I really tried hard to keep up with everybody.
Me too.
And then when, I don't remember, that whole big debacle with the, what's those guys? I don't remember what those guys' names are. That dude out of Jersey and the guy from Arizona, whatever. When that whole thing, I just like, you know what? You never know who you're going to get on the other end. You know? And I just kind of stopped paying attention to the whole group because you didn't know who they were going to. You don't know who they are. You don't know how they're going to pan out until you get to No Name Nationals. So I just kind of put all my effort into when I show up at No Name Nationals, greeting the people at No Name Nationals because they're the ones that no shit, we're not a shit talker and put the money where their mouth is and deliver, right? So why pander everybody else if they're not willing to deliver? Or if they're going to blow up halfway through because they don't like the way that their paintings look in public or something. I don't know. Whatever. You know. But, I just don't waste any time on them.
Well, Colleen says the first year was easy. Yes, I agree with that. But even then, there still was a lot, you know.
No way. The first year was a ton of freaking, the whole thing was new. So the No Name 500, I don't remember how many contestants there was it like 120 something or no 67 I think is the number. John, you know what the number was?
Yeah, but it was, I guess it's because it was new, it was easier to keep up with, at least for me. You know, now it just seems like it's just this massive community now.
Right. And John's saying now, he's saying that the No Name Nationals community generally weeds them out ahead of time. Exactly. And that's why I decided I'm not going to put any effort or time into the people that are fighting for their spot and they want me to pander for them or they want me to come on a live with them. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that. I'm not wasting any time. I'm not even going to watch your show until you show up at No Name Nationals. You meet your 500, I'll go out and sub to you and all that stuff.
Yeah. I do the same thing.
I'm not doing a live with you. You're not going to drag me down. Just like, who was it? Mr. 6% Recycled or whatever his name was. And then he puts on a live at the same time as this one. Right? It's like,
is he still, he's still doing it. Yeah.
I don't know if he's still doing it or not. It's just like, hey, Douche Canoe, there's 6 other days a week and 24 other hours in the days. Why has it got to be on top of the same one from the same people in your community?
Yeah, right.
Right? And then you had me pandering for you. No. Pull your lip over your head and swallow. All right. Let's see where else we're at here. Maybe I might have some mousing. All right, cool. Don said he lost power. Don is the one-eyed cat still, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're back. Lost power for a minute. Wind is blowing. It was pretty windy here today.
Yeah. Got cold. It went from, I went to bed last night. It was 71 degrees. I woke up
It
this
was
morning,
62 this morning when I woke up. I was like, wow, it's humid, you know? And then all of a sudden, like the storm came through, and I think right now it's 38.
Yeah.
It was 62 this morning. Like,
yeah, it's 41 right now.
7 in the morning.
Yeah, yesterday I went to bed last night. It was 71 degrees. I woke up this morning and it was like 40 something degrees. Well, I shouldn't say woke up. It was right when I was going to work. It was about 41 degrees.
Oh, yeah. So Tall Garage is saying the same thing. 71 to 30 degrees.
Yeah.
41 degrees temperature swing. You know, I'll tell you something interesting. Every day I lived in California, in San Diego, was this kind of temperature swing. Every day. It would start off really cold in the morning.
Yep.
And then by the middle of the day, you're like, oh, this is great weather. And then really cold again at night.
That's why you have black hoodies and shorts.
That's exactly where the hoodie lives and dies in Southern California. You always take it with you.
Yeah, you carry it with you because you need it until about 11 o'clock. Then once that burns off from 11 till 3, it gets up to 70, 80 degrees. And then you're good. And then as soon as that sun goes down, it stays warm. And then the fog rolls in. Then it gets cold right away.
And we used to, hoodies was it was the street racers clothing apparel of desire, right?
Right.
Every freaking street racer had a hoodie.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. And everybody was, because you went out there, it was nice. When you left, generally it was pretty warm. And then the sun would go down, and then you would meet up where you're supposed to be at. And by the time you get out and you start setting up your races, it's already getting cold.
Yeah. And then the dew comes in, and that's a real game changer.
Yeah. Well, that's where the big block cars had a hard time, and you'd pick on the heavy hitter big block cars.
Uh-huh.
I really liked those cars that would come out of San Diego, the ones that would come out of Tijuana. Man, they'd look like a dilapidated piece of junk. Imagine like a Mexican taco wagon as a street racer.
It's true.
And then it was like a no shit hammer. You know,
Yeah, right.
500 shot of nitrous on one solenoid.
All the nitrous.
Yes. How much you putting in there? I got a 3-inch house pipe going there.
What jet are you running? What jet?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm using this barrel valve as a jet. Yep.
Right.
But man, some of them suckers were fast.
Still are. They still are.
Let's see. So Colleen's saying that SD is insulated flannel until 9 a.m. and then again at 11 p.m. I'm assuming that's San Diego.
Yeah. I would say more like it's more like 11 a.m. Usually where I was at, it was about 11 a.m. You take the hoodie off, and then by 9 p.m. you have the hoodie back on.
Yeah, you got it on for sure. It's literally as soon as the sun goes down, the temperature drops like 20 degrees.
Yeah, because there's no humidity, so there's nothing.
Oh, South Dakota. All right.
Oh.
South Dakota. Insulated flannel until 9 a.m. and then again at 11 p.m. Oh. Let's see.
Wow.
Max Wedge Dick Dastardly. Jogging pants for racing. Quick, ready to race on hot day. You know, I always liked, to tell you the truth, the one that I always liked was like, you remember well, maybe that's what he's calling jogging pants. Because I'm thinking sweatpants when I see jogging pants. But what I was thinking was, you know those nylon pants that you put on? Maybe that's the jogging pants he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, those things are killer. The only thing that sucks is if you got a fire in that thing, God, it would melt right to your skin, right?
Yeah, right.
Then you got to peel off that first couple of layers.
Dizzy,
there you
is
go.
he saying?
Hey, that's pretty cool.
Dizzy, is he saying he loves Mission Beach? Yes. I used to frequent that quite a bit.
Dude, I'm going to break out some stickers. You know what? I'll put some stickers on my car for No Name Nationals. You guys come up, you identify where they're from. If you can identify them all, I'll give you I don't know, AHRA apparel for El Cheapo, like nothing. Here you go. Right. But I got some cool stuff. Like I got one that looks like a license plate from Southern California that says Hodad on it.
You can't say that kind of stuff because they're gonna research it now.
Oh yeah. Okay. I won't tell you then.
You can't say that. Yeah, because everything you're gonna say, I already know the answers to.
I know. Well, some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you didn't see, dude. Did anybody see my picture on Facebook? The one where I took a picture in Florida at a strip club where you could order a tuna melt. They delivered your food at this strip club, and strippers delivered the food.
And it's a tuna melt of all things.
I ordered a tuna melt, dude. They were like, "You're low rent, dude." Yeah, I know. You know, and that's where I said you could get a pink taco with a fish taco.
That's funny. Oh man.
Okay. What is John saying here? Racing jeans, beach jeans, work jeans. I guess John has a pretty big plethora of wardrobe
jeans,
here.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Tons
For
of
me,
jeans.
it's shorts. I got a whole drawer of shorts right here.
I got jeans and then shorts. I wear them seasonally.
This is mine of choice right there. Dickies.
Yeah.
I love Dickies.
I like just going to buy them at Walmart because they're cheap. Let's see.
Dizzy Izzy saying that Mission Beach, he calls that South Cali. No, that's actually called SoCal. Southern California literally is from Ocean Beach. I'm going to say, let's say Carlsbad. Carlsbad and down. That's where I'm going to say is Southern California. Anything above that is like, some people call it LA, SoCal. I have a hard time calling that LA. I call that LA. That's different than Southern California.
I think there's a definitive line because as soon as you get past Carlsbad, going north on 5, there is literally nothing.
No, that's why I say Carlsbad.
Miles, right?
That's
so
the line.
You're in San Diego County. Let's say you're San Diego County, North County, right?
Yep.
I don't think, just like the Southerner, like when I was stationed in Mississippi, we would say, you're not a real Southerner unless you live below I-10. Okay, I-10 like literally runs along the coastline. So it was like real south, right? Now, them Louisiana boys, they got a lot of area down south of I-10. But, Southern California, I don't really start thinking Southern California until I get down to the junkyards on the 905 freeway. Because that's where it's like, literally, you're driving down this road. If you turned right and went 100 yards, you're in Mexico. Yeah. Right? If you turned left and went 100 yards, you're in like, I don't know, junkyard Mecca. Right? It's like the coolest thing. I'm telling you, that used to be the meetup. There's an AM PM down there, like right at the freaking border. Everybody meet up there, like say 9 o'clock at night on a Friday night. Okay, you go inside, you get yourself a 40. You get like a couple of their throwaway burritos that have been on there for like all day on the roller all day. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. The dino, the burrito dino, the hot dog dino.
Yes, the hot dog dino. And you'd either get the big sausage at the head, or you'd get a freaking one of them burritos. It's like I think they're breakfast burritos. I don't know. Yeah. And a 40, and we would go. Okay, hey, we're meeting up. Oh, I'm sorry. And you get a big gulp. Okay. Yeah. And they say, you're going to meet up 2 miles down in this industrial park. Okay. So we go to this industrial park. You drink your big gulp on the way there. And then you pour your 40 in the big gulp, throw the bottle in the trash can. Right. And you walk around all night eating this burrito and drinking this 40 that looked like you had just been at AM/PM. And you parked the way I did it was everybody would park their cars like in this parking area, and they're all slotted out, right? All this parking slots. I'd park up at the end where like you knew you weren't going to get out of there. The only two people that's getting out of there is the guys that's lined up and the cops show up. Yeah, right? That's the only body. That's it. So I just drive up all over the curb onto the sidewalk and park behind them on the grass. And as soon as the cops showed up, they better be on it because, see, they can't get through the crowd. Everybody's trying to leave. They can't get through it. So I'm on the far end. So all I do is drive off right into the grass and up on the road.
Yeah.
So
I would park, like they would be where the drag race was, where they were coming up to the race. So I would go, because they would go like north and south where they were racing. I would go down to the east and park at the very end there behind that. There was that one building that had that wall there. I would just literally park right over there. And then as soon as the cops come, they would be going after the group. I'd just be walking away and I'd just go sit over there until all the
everybody's
madness
gone.
left.
Yeah.
And then I would just drive away.
Drive off.
Yeah.
So,
but I still consider Carlsbad and South. That's Southern California.
That is true SoCal, I guess.
That's true SoCal. Because even if you take that, go straight across, that's that would be like Elsinore, right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of right across there. That's and down like by Rainbow, from Rainbow basically down. I would call that Southern California also. Everything north of that is like LA, and then Lake Elsinore is its own little thing.
So Max Wedge Dick Dastardly saying, I wear shorts and flip flops at races, sweatpants and sneakers when driving a car. If I could race with AC in my car, I would.
Right? That's great.
I can sympathize. I mean, I really can.
Yeah.
Me and Shane used to race in Barona, which is like this Indian reservation just east of San Diego, up in the mountains.
It's hot.
And, oh my God. I remember being up there one day. It was 108. It was so hot. And then, of course, Shane's got like a fan in his car and windows that roll down and all that fun stuff. No.
And my fan would come. The fan sucks from the vent, the tube. If you're familiar with Mopars, it comes from the passenger side. So that tube that goes up to the cowl at the front, my fan comes right from there. So I'm pulling out outside air in, and it's on a little 12-volt fan. Oh yeah, I've sat in that hot car over there in Bakersfield at Famoso, and I said never again. I'm just sitting there sweating, burning my eyes. Nah, not gonna do that.
Well, we used to have this guy that was at Barona. His name was Steve. I don't even know if he's there anymore. He's probably long gone by now. Steve was the tech guy.
Oh,
he worked at San Diego Gear and Axle.
Oh, I think he's still there.
Is he?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, that's cool. He was a stickler for rules, big time stickler, right? And he would memorize what your car ran. If he saw you like take your helmet off before you got back from the return road, he was up your ass like 10 feet, right? And we and Shane were doing this match race madness. I'll never forget this. We were like the last pair in the 640 group, and it's like, oh, we're rolling up there, and the dudes in front of us just freaking, you can see the crank rods, pistons, antifreeze, all that just pour on the track. And we're like, God damn, right? we're right here, and it was, I think it was June or July.
Hot.
It was so freaking hot. And I look over at him and I could see his hair blowing in that fan. And I'm there with my face mask down, sweat pouring out, right? Like I'm like in an oven in a silver car on top of this freaking mountain, just burning up. And it looked like, I just look over at him. It's like, man, it's like Gilligan's Island over there,
It's true, yeah. And I got that thing running again. I made sure that fan turned on. I'm like, perfect. And my boy goes, what's that for? And I said, one day you're going to be dressed up in here and you're going to have those, 7-10 layer ply things on, and someone's going to break down. You're going to be all strapped in with your window net on, and you're not going to want to get out. And you're just going to sit there and you're going to sweat. It helps out.
Dust Devil Garage. Okay, I'll tell you what happened. Like the mid 90s street racing scene, like I was talking about, like Shane and I were pretty much a part of. I mean, anybody that was our age that was into cars in Southern California at that time, if you were in San Diego, you were going to street races. It didn't matter. I mean, it literally
it was huge.
Yeah, it was humongous.
Yeah. This is before the Slow in the Lane, the Fast and the Furious movies. This was like actual street racing.
Then they came up with this thing called race legal. And
Mhm.
the reason why that happened was our 1990 street racing scene turned into the 2000s Fast and Furious import scene, and they started killing people. I mean, like
Yeah.
running people over in the street and all kinds of crap. So the police came up with this thing called race legal, and they opened up the Charger Stadium used to be right downtown San Diego. It used to be called Jack Murphy Stadium, and then it got bought out by Qualcomm,
Yeah.
and they only held the Chargers games there. They wouldn't let anybody else play at all, right? They used to, when it was Jack Murphy, he used to have like, actually,
Monster
the Padres
trucks.
used to play there and stuff sometimes,
And
right?
the monster trucks, and the Supercross, and concerts and everything.
Yeah, but when it changed to Qualcomm, it was just Qualcomm football. That's it, right? So what they did is they let them use the parking lot, and they set up a 8-mile track in the parking lot.
Yeah, they had 2 tracks, slow and a fast one. So it was side by side, so it was 4 lanes.
And then the fastest thing you could have out there, I want to say, is a 590.
Yeah, you couldn't go faster than 6.0. You couldn't go 6.0.
Okay.
You couldn't hit a 5.99. You couldn't get into the 5s. 6.0 was the fastest because it came down to shutdown.
Well, the shutdown was like a curve, right? It didn't
Yeah.
have a straight shot for, a quarter of a mile for you to have.
No,
You had an
it was-
8-mile straight, and then it was a curve. So
it was an 1/8 mile stop. Okay, that was when they were going east to west. Then they changed the direction. That's when they had the one track. Then they changed the direction. They went north up there by IKEA. So you would basically start underneath the trolley area instead of running parallel with the trolley. And they would have the fast track. So you basically, it was an 1/8 mile track, then it was an 1/8 mile shutdown, and then a 90-degree turn. That's the reason why they had the 6.0
okay.
speed limit on it.
Well, I didn't even bother running there. We just ran out of Verona. But
It was nice running there though, because it cooled down faster there.
well, and yeah, you're near the water.
Yeah, you're at like 100 foot.
But see, the cool thing about the race legal was, when it was race illegal out there, we used to just stop at the APM, get our food, and, but you went to race legal, and there's freaking the best taco trucks are there, right? The one that normally parks, I'll tell you, the best one in San Diego, and Shane could probably vouch, like, there's a million taco trucks running around. There's the ones outside the grocery stores. They're everywhere. But the best one I ever had there was at the junkyard in Nirvana Way. The
Picket Park.
The Picket Park. Yeah. In the parking lot at the Picket Park.
Yeah.
That is the best one I ever had.
Yeah,
And I learned my lesson the hard way because I got a burrito before we went in there. And here you are, like, tromping out, mile out in the middle of nowhere. And all of a sudden, that Mexican gut bomb hits you like freaking, you got wildfire coming out your butt, right? And you're like, oh my God, where do I go? Well, there's no place to go out there, right? You're just like, let me find the nearest station wagon and make sure, make sure I got a spot. So you always get the burrito after.
Well, also too, you can kind of kick back, and they have that huge salsa bar there too, kind of, so you could try all the different salsas. I dug that.
Well, the other thing was, the last time I was there, that I thought was super neat was that, that building they got in the parking lot at that place will install a windshield.
Yes, that's actually where I had the windshield put on my Dart.
That's where the windshield for my white Ford truck came from.
Yep.
I went in there tromping around for junkyard parts while they changed the windshield out, and I came out and got in the truck and left, and it had a brand new windshield in it.
Yeah,
and
it was only like $200.
I think it was less than that.
Mine was $200 on my car, but it was $200 for taking it out and putting a new one in, plus the windshield.
Yeah,
so,
plus the windshield. Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I thought mine was 160, and they pulled it and put it in. But I had a 94 Ford truck. It was like there's probably 9,000 of them in that junkyard.
Yeah, right. And they were used windshields, but the one on my car looks literally brand new.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I always thought was that picket part was they had it going on. They also had, that was the only picket part I went to that had a sink with running water and soap, right? You could literally wash up before you went and paid for your stuff.
Yeah. But you know that they you had to pay $1 then, and then it went up to $3.
$3 for what? To get in?
To wash your hands.
Oh, no.
Yeah. They made it because people were using it like literally like washing themselves. It wasn't just washing your hands or like literally washing themselves. Like
I
you're
can
like,
see it. Hey, what are you doing?
yeah, like
Squirting with soap all over your chest.
for real. It got bad. Yeah,
Well,
because
it used to be $1 to get in those places too. They used to charge $1. You go in, they'd stamp your hand, just like it was actually like the same stamps that they used at the clubs in Tijuana.
yeah,
And then you go in and get your parts, and you come out, and they look at your toolbox. It was not a big deal. Now it's like, I think it was $5 last time I was there.
yeah, and then they had the Primo yard, and then you had to pay an extra
Oh.
$2 to get into the Primo yard.
What's a Primo yard?
That's
Like
that's
new crash stuff?
Yeah, it's like the newer stuff. So like it was all the
no.
high end stuff that hadn't been stripped over or they hadn't pulled an engine on. Yeah.
So when they get worn out, they take them down to the our leper yard, right?
Yeah, for us degenerates, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, see, Sheen and I used to have our own degenerate junkyard. There was one. Dang, I can't remember the name of that sucker, man. It had nothing but older cars, like 92 and older, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of that. That was the one. It was on the same street as the AMPM.
Yeah, that was Ecology.
Ecology. That's it,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to hit that sucker
Yeah.
every week, and that was the first time in my life that I'd ever seen a 70 Riviera GS. Right
in the junkyard. Yeah.
Yeah.
The lights on my 66 Dart were from that wrecking yard.
Did they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the only yard I ever seen. I found a 78 Turbo Regal with a manual 4-speed or 5-speed, and I was like, wow, I've seen these in the owner's manual, but I've never seen a manual Buick Regal ever in my life, and this one was turbo V6.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was taking the transmission out of it and getting all the parts. The linkage parts was the hard to come by stuff, right? I called my old man. He was like, "Oh, what are you taking that for? That's junk. Nobody runs a manual, right? Nobody runs a manual. Get the rear end out of it though, because this probably gonna have a posi in it." And I took the rear end out, and it had a posi in it. I should have grabbed the whole entire drivetrain, dude. I should have just taken the whole thing. But I was living in like a Foot Locker on a base, so
yeah. What are you gonna do with all the parts then? Yeah.
Yeah, that rear end just sat in the back of my truck for 3 years till my dad came out and picked it up. Let's see. All right, let's get back to some of these. Do we have any new questions?
No, I've been watching. You're right.
Did you see this?
Yes, I just read that one.
I'm okay with a cover charge for the yard itself. Best theme park value out there, if you ask me. You know what? Maybe that's what we should do is
Do a
put
live
together we just do. What would be kind of cool is like put together like a road trip, junkyard trip, dude.
right?
Yeah, and it's like, hey, we're going on family vacation, kids. Oh, yay! First place we're going is Hackensack, Missouri. What the hell is that? And it's like an address, like 123 Fleetwood in Hackensack, Missouri. So you drive there and you check it out. It's just a junkyard. Could you imagine the looks on your kids' faces? Like, hey, kids, who wants to ride the roller coaster? And then you pull up and it's like, hey, we're at some hillbilly junkyard. So, exactly.
Clayton's Toolbox asking, "What's your best junkyard find?" Believe it or not, it's the lights. I got inner and outer. Because on a 66 Dodge Dart, you have the two that are mounted on the trunk lid and then two on the fender. I literally got almost mint condition tail lights for my Dart, and they were like $1,300 to buy them. Like, with everything in them, I got everything. So I got it for $50, I think, for all of them. I think there were $12.50 for each headlight assembly. So yeah, that was my best find, I would say. I mean, I got all kinds of engines. I mean, but as far as usefulness, like, oh my god, it was the 66 Dart taillights.
All right, so Danny Boyd saying, in good exercise, Besslers you pull and save in Hebron, Kentucky, has small rocks instead of gravel. It seems like it's hilly and it's a workout to just walk through it. You know what, maybe that's what we should do is, like, since Steve Maggs has been down, maybe we should take over not really take it over, but do some junkyard crawls outside of Missouri or outside of Massachusetts, and just hit some of these yards that people would throw out there and say, hey, man, you got to go visit this yard. They got cool stuff.
We'll come to you because
yeah.
you know that you don't want to go to the wrecking yards here. No,
Memphis has got some good ones. You need to go hold Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Max Wedge Dick Dastardly says, I'd pay $20 to get in a junkyard from the 80s
100%.
in Southern California.
Yes.
All right. Well, actually, Ecology is gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's another one up near LA called Memory Lane.
Yes, that's a good one.
Right. And it'll have nothing but 60s and 70s cars in it. 50s, 60s, and 70s cars. But you are also going to pass Desert Valley Junkyard on your way to that place from where you're at. And you probably money is better spent there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, Clint says the self-serve yard here blows and it's 45 minutes away. Well, you know what? That's it, guys. I know where there's a really bitchin' self-serve yard. If you want to go once a year, we'll pack up, make it a guy's trip. It's in Jacksonville, Florida, right? And it's called this place called Ace. I think Ace Auto Salvage.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's called. You buy it by the pound when you leave. So you get yourself a fiberglass hood for a 66 Dodge Dart. You don't pay about a couple bucks for it.
It's awesome.
Let's see. Clayton's Toolbox. All right, Clayton. At that place I was just talking about with Shane, Ace Pick Apart or Salvage Yard or Auto Junkyard, whatever. They had one day all you could carry was $80, I think. Whatever you could carry out of there.
I've seen that.
So there was dudes carrying doors. There's a guy, he had rigged up a sling, had a truck bed on his back, right? Oh, I'm carrying this on. And you had to carry it like 200 yards. Nah, not me. I'm stupid. So what I did was I disassembled an entire GT40P 302 Ford in a 98 Explorer. And I put all the parts separate. The intake manifold, or the upper and lower intake manifold and the cylinder heads. And I was going to carry it all out of there, right? So I took and I have I don't know if you see, I'm not a pro junkyarder, but I do pretty good. When I was a kid, my dad used to have us take a bucket. When I got older, I realized that they have tool bags at Lowe's or Home Depot for like carpenters to put their tools in, take to the job site. I buy one of them suckers and I load it with my junkyard tools. And it has a strap on it. Big 2-inch wide strap with hooks on both ends. And I hooked them around the heads and put them around my neck, and I carried that intake manifold. And I tell you what, I hurt my back so bad. I was down for like 2 weeks, but I was like, $80 GT40P heads. Yeah, you know. So John Wilburn saying, here's $2.11 for some leopard yard admission. Yeah, maybe that's what we should do. We should have put together the guy's, I don't know, junkyard adventure. Mohawk saying another darn commercial. I don't get any commercials on this end, but I wonder if something's changed with YouTube since the last time I was doing this.
I don't know.
All right. Well, you know what? That brings us to the end. It's 2 hours and 2 minutes. You got 2 minutes of overtime. That's what John Wilburn was paying you for here. $2.11. So I guess until next week, Shane's going to be back. And then maybe I can find some, maybe that's what we'll do is we'll get on here on StreamYard and I'll do some aerial views on Google Earth on some junkyards I know of in Central Illinois that I bet you, if you live in Central Illinois, don't know they exist.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and once again, if there's a question you didn't get to, slantdailygarage@yahoo.com, and I'll see what I can do for you. I was answering a few questions for some of you guys here that didn't want to speak about it on the air. So, yeah. So, slantdailygarage@yahoo. Check it out.
I thank you guys for coming back to the AHRA channel and checking us out again. But until next week.
Yep.
We're out.
You guys have a good day.